Yo, what is going on, Senpai Squad? Welcome back to a brand new video, and today I've got the review for episode 87 of Boruto. Now, there's a couple of things I want to say, and that is, first of all, Merry Christmas to all of you, because obviously this will be going out on Christmas Day, and thank you so much for the past year. It's been a very, very good year in revitalising my YouTube channel, so I thank you all for that so much. There's so many of you. I'm going to make a proper video kind of thanking everyone and all of this type of stuff later on in the next couple of days, but I just wanted to get that out to you because I know most of you guys only really watch these reviews. So once more, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and thank you so much for watching the channel and being a member of the Senpai Squad. Secondly, I'm glad we can all agree how amazing Boruto episode 87 was. Now, a whopping 74% of you out of 80 on the community tab voted for amazing when I asked you guys what you thought of this episode. And honestly, I said this on Twitter right after watching the episode, and I'll be 100% transparent and honest with you guys right now. The Boruto anime for quite a while, I'd say since episode 65, hasn't really managed to get me on the edge of my seat, feeling all sorts of emotions, from sadness to suspense to tension to shock to fear, all of these in an episode, like I said, since episode 65. And this episode did just that. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. We were introduced to 3 new soundtracks, and honestly, I think they may have made that big of a difference in this episode, because personally, I'm not a huge fan of the Boruto soundtrack. I think some tracks are really childish and they take away a huge vibe of, well, they give the wrong vibe about what's actually going on in the scene, and then I think some of the fighting soundtracks are a bit dull. You know, I'm used to, you know, the badass Naruto soundtracks like Spin and Burst and all of these, which just get you hyped the second you see them. Boruto hasn't really got that soundtrack where as soon as you hear it, you know something nuts is going to happen. And I'm not saying that that's what these soundtracks did, but they created suspense which, you know, was needed, and not many of the other Boruto soundtracks did that. Anyway, I just wanted to say out there, I loved all 3 of the new soundtracks, and I thought they made the world of difference. And also, to kind of add on to what made this episode great, was the animation. The animation in this episode was way better than I expected. Now, going off the staff list before this episode came out a couple of weeks ago, we knew we were going to be in for a good, well, decent animated episode, but it was much better than I actually anticipated that it would be. I thought all the fight scenes, especially the final fight scene, the big fight scene with Sarada doing the hand-to-hand combat with Kakuo, or Koko, I don't know, still don't know how you say his name. And then when he was throwing the particle styles at all of them, I thought it was flawless animation. It was absolutely fantastic. Now, a lot of people were saying before the episode came out that it'd be like on episode 65 level, which I think we can all agree that was never going to happen. Like, an episode that well animated comes around like once in a blue moon, but nonetheless, still fantastically animated, and I loved it. And it's one of the only episodes that I've actually watched multiple times, and I'm talking like 3 or so times over and over again for a long time. Again, since episode 65 in Boruto. I think that's the best. It's by far the best episode since episode 65, if that's saying anything. And if you want to get rid of episode 65, then it's one of the best episodes in a hell of a long time in the Boruto anime. The fight was, first thing, a really good, fun, interesting fight to follow. I thought, I mean, the animation and the music played a big role in this, but also the actual combat. There was a mix of hand-to-hand combat and jutsu combat, because Kakuo had, I'm definitely saying, that's the other guy. This guy was I don't know, red-haired dude. He had this interesting thing going about him where he had the particle style, but he could only use it once every 20 seconds, otherwise it would strain his body. So it kind of struck that perfect balance of jutsu battling as well as hand-to-hand combat, because obviously he'd use his jutsu and then he'd be forced into hand-to-hand combat. So that was great, because I love the hand-to-hand combat in Boruto, I think, and Naruto. I think we can all agree hand-to-hand combat scenes are the best, but I do also like to see a flash of jutsu, which, like I said, this fight had both of them balanced out perfectly. But And this I thought was beautiful. It told a story as well during the fighting, which is, if you can kill those two birds with one stone, then you got a fantastic fight. This is why Kakashi vs Obito is one of my favourite fights in anime history. Now, by no means am I comparing this fight to that fight. Not even close. Not in a million years. But it did tell a story somewhat, and that was the story basically Kaku, still don't know his name, just kind of showing Inoki learning that the Yakuza have a will, and then learning what Kaku's will was, and that, you know, he kind of got carried away with himself. And it was genuinely, even though we know nothing about his character at all, like we saw him kill someone, I think, or when they were taking the Tsuchikage as a hostage, you know, he had a small little fight at some point, I think, earlier in the series as well, and then there was this, and other than that, you know, we knew nothing of him. We only really learned his name not too long ago, and I genuinely felt a sense of emotion when he actually died, because, and I dread to say it, he actually had a will. I hate that word still from this arc. It still leaves a bad taste in my mouth, but, you know, he did have a will at the end of the day, which is what Inoki kept saying, no chance, they're just fabrications, that's it. But Inoki's seen hands-on that they do have their own thought process, you know, because Inoki's been saying to them over and over, do not hurt Boruto, do not hurt Boruto. He goes and finds Kakuo just blasting huge particle style at Boruto, going way beyond his limits. He, as Taruda found out, like an absolute boss, he could only use particle style, or any jutsu for that matter, every 20 seconds. And yet Kakuo pushed his body to the limits, but because he's not a perfect fabrication or a Kuta, synthetic being, whatever you want to call them, he pushed his body too much, and what we've seen some of the Yakuza do throughout this arc is start to crack up, and that huge particle style which he was going to use to absolutely decimate Boruto just was kind of like the last straw, and unfortunately did kill Kakuo. And that scene, as dark and twisted as this sound, that scene of Kakuo's death and falling into the pit with Boruto was absolutely beautiful. The music, or the lack of music, there was either no music or a very faint emotional soundtrack going on. I can't remember now. I've not seen the episode at all today, unfortunately, but it was beautiful. And then the lighting and the contrasts and the shadows and the colours, literally everything together, it just led up to a beautiful shot. And there was a little bit of a misconception. I've seen a couple of people talking about that when we have the close-up of Boruto's eye, it was actually the Jogan that, you know, destroyed the particle jutsu and subconsciously killed Kaku, whatever his name is. That's not the case. The whole light going on in Boruto's eye was the reflection of the particle style, and he did die just by straining himself and overworking his body. One part of the episode which I completely forgot to mention, which also had on the edge of my seat and probably was the most fearful part for me of the episode, was seeing Shikadai in the Tsuchikage's office on the phone to Shikamaru, and we saw kind of a bit of his Tamari come out in him, I think, if that's the best way I can describe it, that is. How he didn't back down, you know, he was staying there for the fight, and I thought it was just great because, you know, Shikadai, as much as I love him, he is a massive Shikamaru clone, and that's probably why I love him, because I love Shikamaru. But, you know, bias aside, he is a huge Shikamaru clone. So the brief moments here and there when we see his Tamari sides come in is kind of like a breath of fresh air with Shikadai. But still waiting for him to learn how to use wind style a little bit, you know. Kind of want to see him work all that into the shadow jutsu and things like that. But still, that whole short but sweet scene of Shikamaru, see, I'm calling him Shikamaru now, but seeing Shikadai in the Tsuchikage's office and kind of on the phone to Shikamaru, and then Naruto learn what was going down in the village, and then Tsunade and Kakashi were involved. And for a second, I thought they were going to send Tsunade and Kakashi to the village, and I almost lost it. I almost went nuts. I was like, this is going to be incredible if Kakashi and Tsunade go over there, but that's not really what they were doing. They was actually going, you know, having a small discussion, and as former Hokage, they were going to go and contact all the elders of the village and all the feudal lords to essentially get permission to access the stone village to see what's going on. And I saw a lot of people saying, why, that's so stupid, Naruto shouldn't care about that, he can just one-shot every single village. And there was one person actually on Twitter which kind of came up with a good explanation for it all. It's kind of like, he is strong enough, but that's kind of like, you know, the leader of America or somewhere getting involved with another country's problems just because he's stronger. Yes, it might slightly involve people of his country, but it's kind of like, politically, it's a little bit of a, you know, it's a bit risky. Naruto could start a war, so I suppose you gotta take time to get the proper permissions and all of this, rather than just invading someone's country and just causing a problem. I don't know. I'm not a huge political mastermind. I shall not admit that, but I thought it did make a bit of sense to me, a little bit anyway. So I'd like to see what you guys thought of that. And that was basically it. I think next week's episode, the animation doesn't look quite as good. Hopefully we get some more, maybe some brand new OSTs, but if not, maybe some, you know, the return of the new soundtracks that were in this episode. Also, it looks as though I think we may slowly be losing the Akuta one by one. Obviously, the guy died in this episode, and then Kakuo looks like he may go next episode. I saw in the previews, obviously having a fight, he had cracks on his face, so looks like he may suffer the same death. And then we've got the Genjutsu girl, who's got the funky eyeballs. Kiriria, I think her name is, something like that. She was with Inojin. And then obviously we've got Sekie, and Sekie's been foreshadowed to die for a long time now. He's definitely been the most obvious choice to die, and a very sad death of that. He'll probably be the last one right towards the finale of the arc, and I reckon he'll probably cry, because obviously he was saying he never cried. All this foreshadowing was going on in that huge emotional episode between him and Mitsuki. So again, I've had frustrations with this Mitsuki arc, but this is where it truly shines, and when it is good, it is very good, and it's being very good right now, and it looks as though it's going to carry on that streak of being very good for at least one more episode. But guys, thank you so much for watching. Leave a like on the video if you did enjoy. Leave your thoughts and opinions on this episode in the comment section down below. Subscribe if you're not ready to become a member of the Senpai Squad, and I will see you guys in another video. Until then, peace.